Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Academy. You have your hosts, Jonny and John, and we're gathered by a very special guest today, a close personal friend of mine. The guy was at my wedding recently. Randall, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, glad to be on the show. I was at Johnny's wedding recently. I was looking at a picture the other day of me, you, and Tim Coyne. Good times.
Yeah,
Excited to be on, man. I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
good, man. I'm really excited you decided to join the show. I know you've been a big supporter of what we do. We appreciate that and love talking football with you, man. Randall and I will catch up on the phone sometimes and just like end up talking football for like an hour and a half. I'm like, we gotta get you on the show, dude. So he's here. He's a
Welcome,
personal
welcome,
friend,
welcome.
uh, and he
Yeah.
is also a knower of ball. He is a big Cowboys fan for the NFL. Are you a Georgia Dogs fan or who's your college team? Houston, obviously.
Great
He's a
question.
Houston alum.
So Houston, I'm University Houston alum. I live in SEC country now, being in Atlanta. So like, I've seen a lot of dogs football. I mean, 37-1 in the past 3 years. But Houston Cougars, man, we just made the Power Five jump last fall, and hopefully we can turn it around with Willie Fritz. We'll see. Uh, but
Yeah,
it's funny. To your point, like me and Johnny will be on the phone and just talk football for like an hour. We'll talk a little bit about our careers, and then we'll just get down to it. But you'll see those posts where it's like, oh man, like guys can literally just sit there and just rattle off wide receivers from the past 20 years, and that's us. So excited to talk ball, just guys, dudes talking football. Let's do it.
yeah, man. Speaking of University of Houston, I knew it. Randall knew a thing or two when he wouldn't shut up about a little guy you might have heard of by the name of Tank Dell. Around this time last year, Randall was beating that drum, and I was looking at him. I'm like, yeah, the film passes snuff, and he ended up getting some decent draft capital. I think better than what probably some people expected, handpicked from the Texans, and then goes on to have a really awesome rookie season. So that's kind of the theme of today's show. Is like we want to show you some guys who you should be like looking into right now. We project them to have, maybe decent, better draft capital than people are talking about right now. They might gain some more positive momentum as you continue to do more draft analysis. So we want to put these people on your radar now. We each have two guys we're excited to talk a little bit more about, as well as like we maybe aren't so high on that we'll save for the end. So um, without further ado, John, I think Randall and I have been going back and forth a little bit. Why don't we pass it over to you? Who is kind of one guy that you're really excited for coming into the draft, going into the draft process? You think, where he ends up. I like what I've seen on film. I've liked his production, and I'm excited for his NFL career.
Yeah, so I kind of been quiet here, kind of sitting, listening to you guys go back and forth. But I like Brian Thomas Jr. LSU. These guys really push out a lot of good wide receivers. We've seen Jamar Chase, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, and the list can keep going on. Even with Malik Neighbors, I think Thomas has kind of been a little overshadowed because of Neighbors being the statue of what he's going to be in the NFL. But I think Brian Thomas, depending on his landing spot, I've seen a few mocks where he goes to the Bills, he goes to the Dolphins, but I'm really key and I'm hoping that he goes to a situation where he can, shine and he doesn't have a Tyreek Hill and a Jalen Waddle behind him like the Jaguars. I really think Ridley's not going to be there next year. If he kind of goes into that offense, he's 6'4". He can run a deep ball. I think he has a lot of home run ability. So if he gets into a situation like that, we can immediately see a rookie impact right off the bat. And for that reason alone, I like him. I know there's a few red flags me and Johnny talked about. He's got 1 year where, he kind of just exploded on the scene. He doesn't really have that huge college resume you'd like to see. But this is a big guy. He's 6'4". He runs pretty quick, and he had 17 touchdowns this year. It didn't hurt that Jaden Daniels was a Heisman Trophy winner throwing him the ball, but I think he could possibly go in the first round. If you could get some draft capital because of that, that's great. But if he does slip in the second, I think, he can kind of go under the radar. He's definitely going to be a second round pick in like Dynasty Super Flex League. So early second round pick. So it's just something to think about. I know Malik Neighbors and Harrison are like the crown jewels of the wide receiver pool, but I think Brian Thomas is right after him.
Yeah, when you talk about him, and one thing I think about, he said he's overshadowed, to Malik Neighbors. It's like I think about the Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I mean, similar situation. Obviously, LSU made the playoffs. Joe Burrow won the Heisman. Dayton Dales won the Heisman. Neighbors should have won the Biletnikoff, but was the top receiver in terms of yards. This guy sounds like he can kind of be that Justin Jefferson type. Really, overall, like stats. He has more of a Jamar Chase build. He seems like he would fit really well with the Texans. Texans are looking for that second guy alongside Nico Collins and Tank Dell. So I like that. I definitely can co-sign that. I can see him being the second round guy in a dynasty type league for sure.
Dude, I was seeing a Bengals mock, like kind of replace him with T. Higgins.
I
right?
saw that
And
too.
then you get that same I kind of like that comp for him too, maybe with a little more speed, because I think T. Higgins ran like a 4.59 or something, maybe a 4.6, which isn't blazing coming out of the combine. But I think you could see better than that from Brian Thomas. I think you'll see first round NFL draft capital. And I think the guy's legit personally. I have him as I'm struggling on wide receiver 4 or 5 between him and Xavier Worthy. I have Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze above Brian Thomas for sure. But then I'm like, between Brian Thomas and Worthy, I think they're both studs, and landing spot will matter a little bit. I do get concerned with Worthy's ability to run block, but these are both guys I almost had on my list of my guys, because I think if you start pushing Brian Thomas down too far, you're doing yourself a disservice. So love the pick. Randall, why don't you tell us one of your guys?
Yeah, definitely. Really like the pick. Very under the radar. And, one of my guys, you talk about the whole state being Georgia, my team potentially being Georgia. I really like Brock Bowers. It's an obvious pick, but I think that the pick makes sense because I see really a mixture between, from an NFL top perspective, like a Dalton Kincaid and a Travis Kelce. So wide range there. He's going to perform no matter where he goes. He's mocked a lot to go to the Chargers, and I love to see him, alongside Jay Herbo or Justin Herbert. Harbaugh's offense coming in. I think he's instantly going to be a performer. I think that he's probably going to get the second most reception on the team. And I'm really hot on him, honestly. Someone on a 37-1 team, two-time national champion. Top tight end award. I mean, he's got the goods for sure. He's a California guy, being from Napa, California. So I think being back home in LA would be great for him. But that's my main guy.
My only knock on Brock Bowers is he's 21 years old that has a 41-year-old hairline. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out why is this man so stressed out? He's so stressed out apparently. But listen, yeah.
He needs Bosley, right? This guy, I mean, he is like the elite athletic specimen of all specimen, right? Like a tight end who can run block and run a 4.5. And you can't have a nice, big, thick head of hair too? Come on, my guy.
Right, dude.
Just shave it off. Just shave it off.
That's not the only knock, right? I love it. I think he had the tightrope surgery on his ankle to end the year. There's an interesting I want to plant this seed in case it comes to fruition, which I hope it doesn't, correlation between getting that ankle tightrope surgery and having hamstring issues the next year. I think I can't think of a few off of my head, but there's a couple players who had that same boom and bam happen to them. So I really hope he can recover to 100%. But I've been stockpiling 2024 rookie draft picks on underperforming teams since a year ago, because I knew this guy was coming out. I knew he was going to declare as a junior. And I also knew this was just going to be a great class. So if you haven't already picked up on that, like go get as many first round draft picks in the first 7 or 8 picks of a super flex rookie draft that's coming up as possible, because these guys are absolutely phenomenal. The idea that Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors could fall to like the 6th or 7th pick in a rookie draft when they would regularly probably be the first pick in almost any other draft. Like, this is such an awesome year. I love Brock Bowers. I will be trying to target him. I'm looking at like taking him at the 104 in a super flex tight end premium league, because I think he will be someone to hold down that tight end position. So love the pick.
I'm with
Yeah,
it.
appreciate it, man. I mean, like I said, it seems like it's obvious, but it's rare you see guys that can come in, plug and play. And this is kind of in the new NFL or the current NFL. You need a guy like a Kelsey, like a Kittle, who's more or less a receiver. But the difference between him and someone like Kyle Pitts, who hasn't necessarily put up the production, not to his abilities, but just more to his scheme. Pitts had a very similar draft rating coming into the NFL draft. It's just that he wasn't really a pass blocker. Pitts is like almost like a glorified receiver, and Brock can really do it both. So I really love what he's going to bring to the NFL. I love him in terms of a dynasty draft pick, and I think he's going to exceed already pretty lofty expectations.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, what you were saying, you can get him at the 104. Kyle Pitts, his rookie year, was pretty much being drafted at the 101. And we're saying, Brock could be better than Kyle Pitts. At least, I mean, the bar is low at this point. So, I mean, I think that's an absolute steal if you can get him at the 104.
Yo, Randall, this might be a dumb question. Who's on your shirt?
It's Deion Sanders. So I got it from this streetwear. Yeah.
That's fucking sick, bro. I like that.
You're a Cowboys fan?
I felt like it was right. Massive Cowboys fan.
I got my CD Lamb jersey on.
Oh yeah, look, move your head, John. Look, he's got a signed CD Lamb jersey, Randall.
That's my boy right there. I love CD, man. I love CD. I love him in Oklahoma. I didn't. Yeah, I love CD. He's great, man. He's really
brought me
awesome.
a dynasty championship. So
let's go. Richard Sherman was talking shit about him this year. They said he wasn't number one. He couldn't do it with Amari and without Amari. And look, I mean, he did his part.
Dude. Yeah. I mean, the dude went crazy after Richard Sherman said that. I apparently one of those guys who operates a little bit better with a chip on his shoulder, huh?
I think so, man. It's funny about CD. It's like I thought that he was really random, but I thought Marquise Hollywood Brown was going to be like a similar type player. Like he was the guy before CD got drafted, same style of play in Oklahoma, and just like did not found his stride in the NFL. Still a decent receiver. I'm sure if he played for Mahomes, he'd be doing better than Kadarius Toney. But like, it doesn't really like. I don't know. It just hasn't like hit that stride like CD has.
Yeah. And I think John was joking around this before we started recording. Like, a guy under 6 foot is basically off of on John's do not draft list as a wide receiver.
I'm sorry. It's a bad thing to do.
That's terrible analysis. But
it is, but
there is some truth to like smaller, lighter guys like a Marquise Brown can have consistent foot injury issues, right? Like they're made out of paper, kind of. So,
I mean, if you go through like the top 10 NFL receivers, most of them probably are 6 foot, besides like Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill is just a different breed.
Yeah, good point. That is fair. I guess you're right. It's not an arbitrary number. There's some data there. The top 10 guys are also.
It's just kind of like. If you go top 10, it's like I think Diggs is probably 6 foot, maybe 6'1". Justin Jefferson's probably 6 foot 6'1".
That's my cutoff.
CD's under 6 foot. CD's under 6 foot.
He
might be.
CD's not under 6 foot. He's 6 foot. He's got to be. I'm pretty sure he's 6'1".
He says he's 6'2".
I'll look it up right now, but let's keep the show going.
Exactly. Okay.
No, yeah, but things to think about when it comes to picking players for sure.
Well, now I'm get out of luck.
6'2", CD.
He's only 5'10".
He's already off my board.
All right. So yes, let's keep it moving. My guy, 5'11", 5'10", wide receiver. So apparently he is not going to be a top 10 guy. But that's okay because that's basically what I'm trying to say. This is not someone that's going in the first round or the second round of early mocks. And I think he could get decent draft capital. That could change. I love the guy's game. It's Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. He goes by the Yak God, and that is such a fitting title for the guy. He is Debo-esque. He plays with a very mean streak. He does have awesome physical traits. He made Bruce Feldman's freak list for what he's able to do in the gym. And if you to hear people close to him, close to the school, this guy has a really strong work ethic. I love people that show up to the Senior Bowl ready to show up and prove that they are ready to be in the NFL. He just went to the Senior Bowl, stood out for his physicality, looked fast, showed an extra gear when he caught the ball, proved he's an NFL ready player. He's had to earn it. He's a converted quarterback or cornerback who he's going to need to improve on the ball tracking and route running. That's probably the weakness of his game, but he has that wide back style feel to him. Um, if he gets second or third round draft capital, that's what I'm kind of hoping for, and I believe he could earn based on his college production, which was really solid. 3 straight years of over 70 catches the past 3 years, and if he lands on like a Shanahan coaching tree style team, one of these coaches who knows the power of having one of those gadget players and how to use them properly. Um, I think the guy could turn into a fantasy really nice asset for you. And I think he's a guy that is like, he's not on most people's top 10 wide receiver lists for this 2024 draft. And he's probably about, I think he's one wide receiver 10 because again he's got some polishing to do on the actual wide receiver stuff, but the traits are so solid, the production solid, and I love the guy. So that's my guy. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see where he gets drafted, but I want to plant the flag now.
So Johnny, when you posted this in the notes, I really didn't have any too much information on him myself. But when I went to go see some highlights on him, it just looked like they were just absolutely feeding him like this is their weapon. They need to put the ball in the best hands of their weapon,
Mhm.
and they just made him go to work. I mean, yeah, yards after catch was not a question from what I was seeing, and he looked like he had some bursts, and he was, I didn't watch too much of him because I don't know too much about him. I'll be like perfectly transparent, but yards after the catch was definitely something I saw, and they fed him.
Yeah, definitely. And to your point, like similarly, I didn't watch a ton of him. I remember Western Kentucky, they went off, I think, in their bowl game. They had a guy that was like going viral. Apparently, he needs to go to the portal. I think he was graduating. I think this is that guy. I'm sure there's concerns a little bit about just the competition in college, being in conference MAC, I mean the MAC Mid Atlantic Conference, but to get the Senior Bowl bid says a lot. I have seen some good press from him around the Senior Bowl, so we'll definitely see. Gotta stay tuned, I guess. So you talk about a Shanahan-based offense. Like, what team would you want to? What would be a dream scenario for the team he ends up on?
Dude, I think he could be interesting on like the Texans. They've got Bobby Slowick, right? He used to be on the Redskins coaching staff with Shanahan back in the day. They could kind of bring that Braxton Miller, like
Mm,
what they wanted to happen 5, 10 years ago to life.
yeah,
Here's another crazy scenario. The 49ers draft him at the end of the third round. Debo's got like a kind of wonky contract where I think they've got an out after next year. I don't hate that as like they're grooming him if they make that pick,
right.
right? And so there's certain spots, even again, I don't think anybody needs any more mouths to feeds in Miami, but I think he would immediately take over as a wide receiver three and like see the field some. And that would probably actually I wouldn't be overly in love with that one, but there's somewhere like again those offenses. I would really want to know who's the offensive coordinator, what kind of play styles do they call, and do they prioritize feeding their guys? Because that's exactly what it was. Like John said, like he was a converted cornerback but they knew if they got this guy the football, he was going to run like 5 people over. And that's what I want to see. So,
some of these guys are just ballers. You look at someone like Cordell Patterson. He was drafted as a receiver, more or less dubbed a bust in Minnesota. Goes to Atlanta, plays receiver, plays running back primarily, and I mean he's putting up yards. So definitely not out of the realm to see a converted player from in college change positions or even in the NFL change positions. If you got the juice, you got the juice.
Right.
yeah, but that's my one concern to your point is like gadget guys. Like Debo is the 1%. Because like there's for every one Debo, there's like 100 LaVisca Chenaults,
We had
right?
that
Like
one
these
year with
guys
Terrell Pryor, remember?
poured up in college doing the gadget
Yeah.
stuff.
Who was the guy from University of Kentucky? He got drafted by the Raiders. They thought he was going to be like this really good guy. I think he went like 3rd or 4th round. He played quarterback and receiver at Kentucky.
Oh, Terrell Pryor?
Terrell
No.
Pryor. But he went to
No.
Ohio,
Terrell-
so
Terrell Pryor went to Ohio State. I can't remember his name, but it's a similar situation. Like a guy, like absolute baller. It was Lynn Bowden Jr.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
oh my God.
Yeah,
Where-
exactly. So like that's how much he hasn't done in the NFL. And he was like, he was an amazing athlete, super athlete, like
Right.
quarterback in college, like receiver in college, and just not that the Raiders do an amazing job of grooming talent at all, but did not really do much in the NFL.
Little shot right there.
So that's
Are you a Raiders fan?
No. Look what I'm wearing.
Like, I mean, look at if I think about the Raiders drafting offensively receivers, like I can't think of a good one they developed. Josh Jacobs was already he's an Alabama running back. But
they drafted Amari
Raiders-
Cooper, right?
They
They
did.
drafted him themselves. That was probably the greatest draft pick they've made in my entire lifetime. Like, yeah, they
and you
fucked
could
it
argue
up.
that Amari was better on the Cowboys than the Raiders.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was. That's why. But I mean, the skill was there. The day that guy came out of the draft, I'm like, this guy can play fucking football. And to think that the Raiders drafted him is kind of a head scratcher because I'm like, I'm sure there was a bust wide receiver right before or after him that they could have picked.
Oh, I'm sure there was. Definitely.
No, they drafted Darius
Amari-
Hayward Bay in that
Yeah,
Michael
yeah.
Crabtree year. That was ridiculous.
From Maryland, right? That's where it was college. Yeah,
It was awful.
That's a terrible
Okay,
pick.
let's keep it rolling. John, you want to give us your second guy?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you my lazy analysis here. Johnny likes to call it lazy because I'm taking another LSU guy. So he throws some. He's like, "What? Why are you throwing shade at me?" But listen, I know Jaden Daniels is going to be a top 5 pick most likely in the NFL, bearing some crazy scenario where he slides. But right now, I think most mocks got him going at like pick 3 to New England. And I know the guys behind him, like Caleb and Drake May, they have athleticism. They probably are better passers than Jaden Daniels, but I think he brings something to fantasy that those other two don't with their legs. I mean, he is in a different tier leg wise. I think he's got that Justin Fields type of vision with his running ability. He's got an excellent deep ball as well. He can throw the deep ball pretty well. Again, he won the Heisman for a reason. He did have Malik Neighbors and of course the guy that I was just talking about. So it helps to have some weapons around him. But again, we're talking about fantasy football a little bit here. I'm just saying that we saw it a little bit with Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Tim Tebow, Lamar Jackson. The list can go on. We even saw it a little bit with Anthony Richardson before he got hurt, that these guys provide a floor that regular QBs don't with their legs. So he's going to be a top 5 pick. He's got the draft capital. This is not somebody that they're going to move on from if New England ends up drafting him. He's going to be there for at least a few seasons to see what he's got. So he's got time to develop. And I just think this, the floor of these type of like players, you have to buy into and hope they turn into the Jalen Hurts, where they turn into the Josh Allens. So if you can get him probably at the 104 or 103 in most dynasty super flex leagues. So just something to think about. His comparison also can go anything from, I would say, Jalen Hurts to Tyrod Taylor. So he's got a large range of outcomes. So it's hard to say where you got to be prepared for failure as well.
What do you think is in between a Jalen Hurts and a Tyrod Taylor? Like, so it's a loaded question because it's like
I think of Justin
Tyrod
Fields.
Taylor.
Justin Fields.
Are those good comps? Like,
No, but see,
so
like
Fields is.
Justin
Go ahead.
Fields, right?
I think
Like
they're good comps. Yeah,
we're talking about they could possibly move on from Justin Fields this season, but why aren't they moving from like why are they not totally 100% sold they're moving on? It's because he's so athletic. He's so like that they don't want to give up on this guy yet. So I can see a
right.
scenario where Jaden Daniels, you know, he might struggle for his first 2 years in the league, but he might show some athleticism. He's got the Heisman Trophy winner. He's got the top draft capital. There's some insurance backing him up that, you know, he's not going to be kicked to the side like a Trey Lance after 4 starts. So,
Right.
Well, he had
Right.
he was a third pick.
he
So
was a third pick, but there's more. Like, you know, there was more backing up, you know, Daniels in the sense of a Heisman Trophy winner. You know, like I think he's just got a little more cushion.
So I like Daniels. I have him as my QB3 behind Caleb Williams and Drake May. But I do have there's a reason I refuse to push him higher. I think there is certainly a possibility he plays one game, rushes for 2 touchdowns. He's just all of a sudden the QB2 in Dynasty, something stupid like that, right? Like, but I think Randall and I talked about this a little bit when we were prepping for the show. Like, his ability to avoid big hits is not spectacular. And you mentioned Anthony Richardson. Neither was his. One of my picks for last hot takes was that Anthony Richardson was going to finish outside the top 20 because he was going to miss time. And he did. He didn't even get close because he barely made it through a couple games. He almost left every single game early because he was getting so banged up. And it's just something I'm concerned about. Daniels really is going to have to protect himself at a whole different speed than he's used to. And shameless plug, that's actually one of my favorite traits about Caleb Williams. If you watch him play, the dude knows he is going to be around for the next 20 years, never takes a hit he shouldn't take. And it's actually really impressive. So
I will say to your point, the negative about Daniels that I don't like is he is very slim built. I would like him to at least
yeah,
put on 10 pounds, I'm hoping he puts on 10 pounds before he signs an NFL contract because he is slim. So I don't know how much hits he can take in the NFL. So yeah, to your point.
He's got a Teddy Bridgewater, Lamar Jackson build. I could definitely see some of the comps, and like I said, I mean, I think in the Georgia Dome here about a year ago, there was this hit where the Georgia player picked him up on the field. I mean, the
I saw
guy, he's very light, and he doesn't love to slide. Clearly, I think but I also think that that's very coachable. I think if that's one of his main drawbacks, like I think you can teach him how to slide. I think he can learn how to avoid hits. I think there's, $10 to $20 million per year worth of reasons why he should slide. Um, and the NFL does do a good job of trying to protect the quarterbacks. I think that's fair. Uh, I always am a little concerned looking at quarterbacks that have 2 NFL receivers to throw to. It makes me wonder, I think he's very talented. And I think that what really I like about him is that if you look at his career, every year he has gotten better. Like even at Arizona State with Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Parasol, who also someone else I'm really hot on in the draft,
yeah.
Arizona State and Florida transfer, shameless plug here as well. Every year he's gotten better. LSU was pretty much a defense away from being a national champion. I will stand on that on all 10. So I really do like this pick. I think that if he ends up on the Patriots, that could be a solid situation. Hopefully they can get a receiver to pair alongside Juju or whoever else they decide to line up at receiver. And they got Ramondre at there. So I think that this is overall a solid call.
Dude, love me some Ricky Pearsall. Wild that Jaden Daniels was throwing passes in college to Brandon Ayuk. Like this, I think Brandon Ayuk's been in the NFL like 4 fucking years
Yeah.
now. Like,
That's why it's crazy.
I honestly
Yeah,
did
yeah.
not know that until you said it. I completely
Yeah, no,
want to.
oh yeah, there's a highlight. It's fun.
yeah, it's one of those things you're like, how did this team not win anything in the Pac-12 with Pearsall and Ayuk and
Right.
Jaden Daniels?
Like the 95 Bulls.
Right. No, seriously. Oh, it's crazy.
Well, cool.
So,
I will go with. Oh, sorry.
So I guess I'll go with my second guy. Have we gone over it yet? What do you think?
Yeah,
So I'm really torn because it's a mixture between I want to go with the guy that I think is going to make an impact this year, or I want to go with the guys that are sleepers. Like I think the guy that can make an impact this year, it's super obvious, but it's not, is Michael Penix Jr. And I'm throwing a wild card up there. It's a wild card because it
ooh,
wasn't prepped in my notes.
I was gonna
But Michael
say,
Penix,
damn it.
screw the fucking notes, right? Pardon my language. But Michael Penix, obviously the main drawbacks are his health status. Very similar to RG3. I think he had 2 knee surgeries in college on both knees. Um, I love the kid's heart. He's a Florida guy. He's from Florida. He, played at Indiana, went to Washington, both underdog type schools. Every week he was doubted, remained humble. Statistically, he did an amazing job. He beat Bo Nix twice. What I heard from the overall Senior Bowl was that the man just has natural arm talent. It shows up in person. It shows up on the tape. And I think he's just a winner. I think if he ends up in a situation like the Vikings and they move on from a Kirk Cousins, I think that's a great plug and play situation for him to have JJ, to have his name number 17, the receiver, KJ Osborne. I really think that Penix has the ability to be one of those higher picks in the dynasty draft. I personally think that Penix will do better in the NFL than Jaden Daniels with the right situation. So that's kind of my my 2 cents.
Dude, I love it. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here for the two guys from the best
I
offenses
see.
in
I knew
college.
it. Here it is.
My man Randall like wasn't afraid to stand on business. I love his
No,
purple do rag, and when he shouted out his homie in jail after the game, I was like, "Yeah, this is a Florida boy. That's a
Florida
Florida
boy,
boy."
he's holding it in, man. I think I bought a purple do rag last week for him. So I'm a suede do rag. Because my other guys, and we can talk back about Phoenix, but there's been so much good football that's happening between the East-West game and the Senior Bowl. And I love, I was looking at the running backs, but I love Frank Gore Jr. I don't know his exact draft capital. It might be a day 2, day 3, but he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons at Southern Miss. Obviously, everyone knows who his father is. They're built very similar. I think that he could be someone later in the draft, late, that you could pick up, and he can kind of come in and be an RB2.
He's got the bloodline.
Yeah, that's I got to do some more homework on Frank Gore Jr. I got to be honest, because there's so many running backs like that are
They're just jumbled together.
buried kind of like yeah. And for instance, like I'm my next guy, my guy, you maybe have never even heard of, right? Like um because there's some sleeper running backs, and I think Frank Gore is a good one. You love that bloodline. Luke McCaffrey's also in the draft. And I know
Mm-hmm.
Randall,
We were talking about him.
we love that. He I think he hit 20 plus miles an hour in the Senior Bowl, which is good to see. But my guy, and I mean, I went back and forth on this because like he's not a burner. He's 24 years old right now, grown ass man. I think he will be a late pick. So like the analytics guys are gonna hate me for this. But he is a dog, and that is Cody Schrader. He was an eye test passer at the Senior Bowl. Like in the drills with the running backs, he just looked when they were going through him. He showed the ability to catch the ball, which I really liked. His story is awesome, and the dog in him was a D2 guy, led the D2 in rushing yards in 2021, which doesn't mean nothing. Like Jaleel McLaughlin played some pretty good ball for the Broncos this year and was a D2. Um, so that from there, he transfers to Mizzou, SEC school, tough competition, works his way up from the ninth string running back to rushing for over 1,600 yards this year, almost 500 more yards than the next closest person in the SEC, Quinshawn Judkins. So that is just absolutely awesome production. And that matters at the running back. Like these guys might not last forever, but if they're showing on film that they can put up 300 yards against Tennessee, had 200 rushing yards and over 100 receiving yards. Like, this guy has skills. He was a leader on the team. He was a Senior Bowl standout to me. Showed that like he's a physical runner. If you watch him, like he's not the fastest guy, but he showed the ability to actually make people miss in the Senior Bowl. Like he juked the crap out of somebody. Delivered. He knocked somebody on their ass real bad too. Delivered some punishing contact, showed the ability to catch passes. So if this guy, I think he's going to go late in the draft, but I think he could go to a team like the Giants, where if they move on from Saquon and it's like anybody's, job to win, he has shown that he can move up the depth chart and just earn it with his lunch pail type of play. I'm rooting for the guy and kind of wanted to pick him because almost a similar vibe to Corley. Like these are some dogs and some guys I'll be rooting for.
Johnny, what do you think best case scenario is for him, like draft day? Like where, like fourth, third round, maybe fourth round?
No, I think he'll probably. I If that
Best
happens, then it'll
case.
be like I told you so.
Best
Like
case.
because
Give me
that's
best case
not
scenario
bad.
though.
Like round three for a running back is like round one for a wide receiver.
That's true. Things aren't the
Yeah.
same.
I think
Yeah.
he could be a fifth or sixth round guy, and that's almost like best case. I think he could go undrafted, which is just like goes to show that I could know nothing, but so could the NFL guys if they don't draft him. And he, because the comp I think of they're totally different players, but it's like Philip Lindsay. It's like the guy fucking balled out back at the University of Colorado, went undrafted because like, oh, he's too small, this and that. And it's like, just watch the guy for 2 seconds run the ball and you can see he belongs on a team. Here, Broncos brought him in for training camp. That's exactly what happened. He soared to the top of the depth chart because he was just different. And I think that's kind of the trajectory I see for Schrader is like, they're going to count this guy out more. He's not going to be drafted. He'll be a low pick. But if there's anybody that I want to take a flyer on to go out and work for it to earn that spot, he's shown that he can do it. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him go in like the fourth round. I think that would be like everything I'm saying being validated by an NFL scout at that point. But we'll just have to see.
Yeah, he seems like a guy. Again, I keep referencing SEC country in Missouri. They played Georgia really tough, probably the toughest game they had all season, outside of losing to Alabama. I love the comeback stories, the underdog stories. I'm thinking his floor is like Rex Burkhead. His ceiling's Austin Eckler. Similar type guys in terms of running the ball. Eckler can make plays off the pass. He can make plays on the run. I'm a believer. I really am. I really am a believer in him, and I don't know if he's gonna go fourth round or fifth round, but he's a guy that could be an RB2, RB3. And if you can make plays in the passing game, you more than less can make a roster.
Dude, 22 carries for 112 yards versus Georgia. I mean, it's not crazy efficiency, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That team
And that was on the road too, at that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's not like Mizzou's offensive line was probably getting a great push against, like, the dog. So, yeah.
Just to provide perspective, so you mentioned the second highest running back in the SEC, or the SEC was Quinshon Jenkins. So Quinshon just transferred to Ohio State. That's how good he is. Ohio State said, "Hey, come join our team." He's an NFL running back as well after he leaves next year. So that says a lot about going to
I'm like, hey, that guy everybody loves? He's got 500 more rushing yards.
Yeah. No, he's definitely he's legit. That was a good pick. Definitely legit.
Well, I will admit this one's right in my fucking face. I am in St. Louis, Missouri. The guy was born in St. Louis, Missouri. So there's probably a little bias floating around in here somewhere, but like I'm a production guy too. Like I love the fact that he, almost 6 yards a carry. So it wasn't just like crazy numbers on terrible efficiency. He could have been better in like the missed tackles force category. But again, those were some things that like when I saw him at the Senior Bowl, had a lot of juice, was making people miss. And it's some of those things he puts those concerns to rest with what he continues to put on tape. And again, I kind of hinted at this before, but there's something about, like, go back to last year, the Senior Bowl. You had Puka there, you had Tank Dell there, Rashi Rice. Basically, everybody who did anything was there. And I'm starting to feel like there's a bit of a correlation in today's NFL of like, I'm going to sit on my ass and get picked in the first round, or like, I'm going to go to the gym and get in the best shape I can to go prove I need to be on a roster. Like, that's the guy I want. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
the guys I mentioned, workout warriors, trying to earn their spot on an NFL team. And I think once they get there, they're going to continue putting their foot on the gas. So
Yeah, I was listening to Andy Staples this week, and one thing he loves about the Senior Bowl, and he's a columnist for On Three. He does his own show talking about college sports all the time. Is that what's nice about the Senior Bowl is that you get to see the players watch film. You get to see them like how they move in offices and how they move in these rooms, like how they interact with their new teammates, right? Like you're competing, you want to do the best in your reps, but these are also people that like are they're people, and you can't see that just watching film. You don't have the ability to get breakfast with them or get breakfast with a scout, get breakfast with a head coach in the NFL or a positional coach, and then go watch how they handle reps at practice. Like again, I know it's a kind of an all-star game, if you will, and a lot of these guys are already first to third round grade, but how they finish reps, their attitude towards reps, how they handle reps when they don't do as well as they want to. Like are they down? Are they lackadaisical? Are they up? Who's taking command in the locker room in a 2 week practice scenario?
yeah,
And that's where the Senior Bowl really, in the East-West Shrine game, really allows these players to shine with some of what we call in corporate America like soft skills, right? So it's definitely something that it means a lot. And I think the best players that want to improve their draft stock or solidify their draft stock are going to be up for the challenge. And
Penix was
thankfully, players they're not getting hurt in these type of games, compared to bowl games.
Yeah, Penix was out there. To your point, I heard that about him. Right, he was leading the guys really well. So, um, yeah, I love it. You talked about like scraping a little past the surface and getting to know these players. Finally heard a Brock Bowers interview. The guy has a little bit of a lisp. Are we pushing him down draft boards?
No, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
so he's balding
He
and
could
he
be
has a
blind.
lisp.
He could be blind. I don't care.
I'm out on it.
Where are we at?
Okay,
Would we have one more or?
we're gonna finish with a quick round of fades. And I'll let Randall. You want to go first?
Oh, sure, man. I mean, I think this is a guy you might have had on your go-to guys. And I think I'm gonna fade JJ McCarthy.
Oh, I'm
I
fading him, dude.
You're fading JJ McCarthy too?
On the same page. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah, dude.
Okay, so we're on the same page here. I just feel like I love Harbaugh, right? Harbaugh's like, man, JJ McCarthy, best quarterback to ever play at Michigan. He's a leader, he's a guy. He meditates. I meditate. I love that. Statistically speaking, I mean, it's a quick search, right? 35th in the country in yards, 37th in the country in touchdowns. I think about the two biggest games he played last year, and at Penn State they ran the ball 40 straight times.
This guy stinks.
To win.
He had no idea what happened.
Awful, right? Stinks. I'm not saying he can't be a good NFL backup. I just don't buy into the hype of him being QB5. Yeah, I just don't see it. I think he's solid. He played a great semifinal game, 3 touchdowns against Alabama. That says a lot. But I'm not seeing the consistent production in what I consider to be a down year in the Big Ten. And the two big games they did play, Ohio State and Penn State, I didn't really see anything that was just like, ooh, this guy really blows my socks off. I was more impressed with Will Levis, to be honest. So that's my guy I'm fading on.
Dude, such a low-hanging fruit, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, the fact that this guy could really go in the first round is just wild to me. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't show the ability to process the field that well. He's got some mobility, which is great, but he's not. I don't love the build. You know what I mean? He looks like could get crushed at the next level. And I'll be honest, this might sound really dumb and not that like I've watched the film. You guys know I've watched the film, but the meditation stuff doesn't do it for me, like talking about being depressed in high school. It's like, dude, you were the starting quarterback in high school. Like, you think we're gonna feel bad for you? Like, yeah, it's just wild to me. So I'm out on him. I mean, it was that team was designed as a running team with some giant offensive linemen. Uh, I probably could have won the national championship as quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines
Oh,
last year.
stop it.
So
Yeah, the quarterback they had before him, not Cade McNamara, but Shea Patterson. And Shea's not an NFL quarterback by any means, but I just feel like as long as you are comparable or competent, you could be the Michigan quarterback.
Yep.
I didn't see many games. JJ didn't lose them games. I didn't see many games that he won. That's just my thoughts. I'm only being a hater because of this high praise when it comes to the draft selection and where you should go.
No.
My guy. Or it's not my guy.
That's not
my guy.
Whose man's is that? All right. So I will not dump on this guy too hard because, like, I know he was on your list of likes and you had a lot of good stuff on there. You did your research. Everybody's too high on this guy, though. Like, they're talking about picking him in the second round in Superflex drafts. People are talking about this guy being a top 50 NFL pick. I'm not sure that's the case. That's Lad McConkey. I know you're a dog. I know this is a tough conversation. If I'm willing to have it with you, I'm willing to have it with the world. Like, the guy played on special teams a lot. He had like 30 and 40 catches the past 2 years. He was not overly productive. People are like, oh, his yards per route run is great. It's like, so was Steven Sims this year on limited, data points. I think he got a lot of hype for winning in one-on-one drills at the Senior Bowl, which means like very little to me. What meant a little bit more was those zebra trackers that were tracking how fast the players were running. He was not on that list of the fastest players that I saw. Like, Luke McCaffrey hit over 20 miles an hour. Bunch of the people that I was hoping to see on there were hitting the speeds. I don't think Lad's going to run that fast. I don't think he's going to test as well as people think he is, because he doesn't really pass the eye test to me. I know it's tough. And then the last thing I will say is I watched that entire Senior Bowl. They did not have a lot of receivers. He was out there almost every snap. He ran a ton of routes, got 2 targets all game, made 1 catch. He was not commanding targets. I think that's a combination of his build. They had him in an interesting spot. They had him playing the X receiver. I think he is a slot guy. But I think John and I were talking about this. It's the age of like the Wes Welkers of the world who used to go undrafted are now top 50 picks because they have the same traits as Wes Welker. And it's like, no, this guy should probably be closer to a 4th or 5th round pick because he really wasn't even, I don't know. That's the production scares the crap out of me. If this guy was some Cooper Kupp, wouldn't he have caught like 70 passes in a season at Georgia? So I had to stop the hype down. I'm lower on him than most because, like, I'd rather have a guy like a Malachi Corley, or like there's a whole slew of guys that I think he's starting to jump ahead of. That this is such a great wide receiver class. I would be more high on him if he didn't have any hype at all.
Yeah, see, I feel like McConkey's like a fit guy. Like I could see him fitting well like on the Lions, late 4th, 5th round. Pair next to him on St. Rod. I always mess up his name. You're right. He only had 3 touchdowns last year for Georgia. But I look at his production, and I think 2022 he had a really good kick return against Auburn. He made big plays against Georgia Tech when they were kind of down. He's the guy that Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck have come to be able to rely on to make a solid play. I don't obviously think he's a first or third round pick. The concerns that they had going into the Senior Bowl were that he had a tough time creating separation. He proved he could do that. And just from a reception perspective, honestly, most of the quarterbacks in the Senior Bowl didn't play that well. Joe Milton played terrible. Sam Hartman played terrible. I'm trying to think who else. Bo Nix played terrible. The only people really making completions were pretty much
Rattler.
So, and O'Reilly played a different game. But yeah, like, so it's just, I'm not trying to cape for the guy. I'm not, I just feel like his role in the Georgia offense was not to be the guy, but when a play needed to happen, he was the guy. And so,
Right.
like, I think you got to create a team. There's also something about creating a team with guys that come from winning programs, like a Georgia, for example, or like a Clemson. You get guys from Clemson, they're going to perform, right? Like a Hunter Renfro, great example, right? And Hunter probably had better stats in college, but similar concerns, like, kind of gritty, lunch pail, all the terms they use to describe those type of receivers. And look what Hunter's doing in the league. He's pretty solid.
He's a scrappy
back
guy.
To Raiders receivers, draft picks, scrappy guy.
He's a locker room type of dude.
Locker room type of dude. You need those guys. Kadarius Toney, is not a locker room type of guy. Clearly.
So I will totally say this is not a total like indictment on him as a football player. I think he will be a much better, valuable football player than a fantasy asset. That's kind of where, to your point, I think this
like
guy.
Like Cole Beasley.
Dude, great. Yeah, you need a chain moved. You need a third down catch. And did Cole Beasley find his way into some fantasy lineups here and there when you needed him? Yeah,
I think that's best case scenario, though.
Yeah, was that not great?
Yeah.
If you were starting Cole Beasley, were you psyched about it? Probably not. Actually,
no. You got like
that Broncos year, maybe.
You got 3 buys that week.
But a Red Cowboy fan, I mean, you could talk about Cole Beasley had a moment with you guys, didn't he?
He did. I mean, we drafted him. He's from SMU, so SMU's in Dallas. Obviously, the Cowboys are in Dallas. I liked Cole before we drafted him. Like, I'm not just saying it's a Cowboys fan. I really thought he was going to be solid. I watched him play in the AAC. They were rivals to Houston at the time. So you need those type of guys. Like, not every guy is going to be your number one wide receiver from college that can play the X or the Y or the Z. Like, you want to get guys that are slot guys that can play the slot in the league. And obviously, Ladd McConkey is that hot slot guy. So we'll see.
Okay, I'm all in. I'm drafting him in the first round.
I'm going to give you one of my guys.
Yeah, close us out, John.
Yeah, because I know we're running a little long, but I'm going to give you one kind of just right off the rip. I'm talking about Bo Nix. Listen, Oregon, I don't think really asked him to do a lot of great passing concepts here. He got to did some line of scrimmage work, a lot of screens, RPOs. His footwork isn't the cleanest. I just think if he gets drafted to a team like, let's just say a needy team like the Giants, if Daniel Jones moves on, he's going to be in an absolute whirlwind of situation with no weapons around him in an NFL offense that's going to absolutely kill him behind a terrible offensive line. So I just think if he's not drafted in a good case scenario, he's going to struggle, and he's not even going to have a chance to be an NFL starting quarterback. So,
dude, I keep seeing mock drafts of him going to the Broncos, and it makes me want to blow my
high second.
out.
I've seen him going high seconds. It's crazy.
No, I've seen him going to we have like the 12th or 15th pick. I keep seeing Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy get mocked to us, and it is like it's a tough pill to swallow. I don't think Sean Payton would do that to us. Yeah.
No.
That's all I'll say about that.
Real quick before we wrap it up, 30 seconds around the horn. Super Bowl predictions. Johnny, go for it.
I'm never betting against Patrick Mahomes. I think you've got a 20.
A homeboy.
You've got, let me think, how is this score breakdown? It's going to be 24-21 Chiefs. Moody is going to miss a kick to tie it late in the game, just like the Bills. Tyler Bass missing that kick. So
Randall?
that's my
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go against Patrick Mahomes. I think he's been the sixth AFC Championship. I want to say 3 or 4 Super Bowls, give or take. Um,
Crazy.
I think the Niners are on a destined season. Losing Purdy and their other backup quarterback last year, and the Eagles going to the Super Bowl and that Mickey Mouse ass run. I feel like this year, Debo, McCaffrey, Purdy, they're on a mission. Purdy's trying to prove he's not a game manager. Debo is Debo. He's coming in with that hype entrance, and Trent Williams getting hype. I think McCaffrey, he never imagined himself being in his position, playing for his hometown team, not playing for the Panthers in a poverty franchise. But I think it's the Niners. I got Niners 27-24. I think that they will hold a lead at halftime. The Chiefs will storm back, and the Niners will go back up to close it home. It will come down to the wire for sure. No
I
one's beating
believe
the
that
Chiefs
too.
by 10 or 15 or 10 or 14. It's not going to happen.
I think whoever
Mahomes is gonna
has
be
the
in a game
ball last possession will win this game. That's how I really feel like this. This
Yep.
is one of like those coin flip type of games. Obviously, if you look around, I have Chiefs gear everywhere, so I'm rooting for the Chiefs, but I'm not going to say that this game can't go south. I think it's going to be more defensive than people think. I think the over and under is 47.5. I got it a little under. I got 2017 Chiefs by a field
Okay.
goal. Bucker to kick a 47-yarder to win it.
47 yards.
47.
What you just got back from Back to the Future?
47. Listen,
47 yards.
47 yards. You muted yourself. I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh no, there you are.
Damn.
I think this is great. Maybe we could add this before. This will be the end of the episode, but like maybe we do like honorable mention guys. Any honorable mention guys you want to mention for the draft?
Honorable mention. Dude, Luke McCaffrey. I'm not out. I'm just going to say that. Like I said, I liked what I saw from the Senior Bowl from him more than Bo Nix or more than Lad McConkey. Like when he got the ball in his hands, I was very impressed. Alan Holker, get to know the name. CSU tight end. Probably should have won the Mackey Award this year.
Yep.
Brought it, but missed a lot of the season with the ankle surgery. Holker was like storming out of the gates. The team totally fell flat at the end of the year. He was not to blame for it, but if you look at like his first 6-7 games, this guy was on a crazy pace. Love his highlights. He can make contested catches. He's got some speed. I could see him being like a third or fourth round pick as a tight end, and he would totally like all of a sudden be on people's radars. Like he's not even on the top 5 list of people who like tight ends that people think are going to be good. But I have him almost as my tight end 3, dude. Like after Bowers and Jatavian Sanders from Texas, it's like basically a wasteland for tight ends, and I really like Holker.
I like that pick. If he played a major role in Colorado State's push to win, he's really solid. He's a really good player, and I think from what we've seen the last couple of years, a lot of these tight ends have proven you can be plug and play. Ferguson, Dalton Schultz, like none of these guys are high draft picks. They just happen to be good in the right situation. So I like that pick a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. What about you?
Me? I have nobody to add to this list.
Yeah. I want to add. I mean, I'm just controversial. I don't think he's going to be a guy you're going to draft in your keeper or your dynasty league. But like Spencer Rattler, people keep trying to bury him, and he has his little flashes in the pan, beating Clemson in 2022, and then beating Tennessee, who's on the cusp of making the playoff. Great defense, great offense with Hendon Hooker, being a good Clemson team, and this year winning the MVP for the East-West Prime game. Obviously lost his job in freshman year or sophomore year to Caleb Williams. I believe if he goes to the right team, his floor is an NFL backup. Ceiling is maybe he's like a Sam Howell, kind of gets a potential starting position and could make something shake. So I'm pretty hot on him in the right situation. He had some character issues that seem to have resolved. So I like Spencer Rattler a lot.
Did you watch QB1, the show he was on?
I did. He was very concerning.
I
Yeah,
haven't seen
it was
it.
pretty
I'll
bad.
watch it to like get a little prospect, like to as we were talking about earlier. You get to see how they interact in front of the cameras. I heard he wasn't happy with how he came out or came off.
He did not help himself with the things he said. And you know, with those TV shows, they kind of try to choose to pick like who's the villain, who's the hero. Like if you watched what was it, Last Chance You, like Malik, I forgot his last name, the quarterback Malik, you know, he ultimately was someone who was just a low character guy, kind of pouty, when really the true villain was the head coach, who's the actual problem. It's just, I'm not saying take it with a grain of salt. He clearly had some character issues on that show, and but to go to South Carolina, go somewhere that realistically didn't make sense coming from Oklahoma, like you're going to a middle of the pack SEC school. He looked to never really be the problem for South Carolina. It was more so just the team around him. And so I'm hot on him being like a fifth, seventh rounder. Did what could happen?
I like it. Closing guys. A.D. Mitchell from Texas. I love what I saw in film. I hate the advanced analytics. Like anything you dig into around the guy is bad. But if you watch the film, I love him. Dylan Johnson, the running back from Washington. Dude, why are people not talking about that guy more? Like, I guess it's because he was playing in the championship on a broken ankle. He had a great season. I think he caught like 60 passes the year before when he transferred from Mississippi State. So he's interesting to me. Johnny Wilson from FSU, 6'7", will probably run pretty fast, like a 4.5, but he's just got those gazelle legs. And then Ricky Pearsall, you mentioned him earlier. These are all
Pretty
guys.
Ricky.
It's such a deep class, man, where these guys, some of the ones I mentioned are going to go undrafted. Some of them are going to fall to you with your last pick. Like, don't be a fool and take Lad McConkey. Take Ricky Pearsall. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
These are guys that are gonna make the roster and take some spots away from some people. Honestly,
Yeah, it'll be awesome to see these guys coming to the NFL. I'm really excited about it. Okay, well, everyone, thanks for joining the show. Randall, thank you for being our guest. You are welcome anytime, man.
Absolutely.
He has a wealth of knowledge on all things Texas college football. Like he was just saying, dude knew when Cole Beasley went to SMU. I mean,
That's deep,
I
man.
probably, gun to my head, I probably could have told you that, but that's pretty deep. Yeah. So
yeah.
we really appreciate having you, man. It was a blast.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If there's ever a draft episode or as we get closer to the draft, if there's anything, I'm happy to pop in. College football, psycho over here, and love the NFL, of course. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. All right, everyone. Take care. Like, comment, and subscribe. Show us some love. We're trying to pump out really quality content for you guys. And hope you appreciate it.
Adios.